Like, vaccines are God's gift to the world. Let us not question anything about them. You cannot do wrong by getting as many vaccines as we can pump out into as many people as we can find, including children.
Ugh.
And that is just so stupid. It is so unscientific, and it's just wrong. I mean, diseases are different. The Spanish flu of 1918 killed young people.
Sure.
If this thing had been the Spanish flu, I would have been very scared of it.
Yeah.
And I would have fought you for the vaccine. But this was different. And kids, I mean, probably of all the collateral damage, and there is a lot to how we handled it, probably what we did to kids is the worst. Not just keeping them out of school.
Dr. Phil came on our show and said that we're going to see the repercussions of what we did to children for years and years
I think we're seeing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, they were stupid enough to begin with. I mean, I don't know, how old are your kids?
4 and 2. So
4 and 2.
Luckily, they were so young.
Yeah,
that,
they're trying to give a 4-year-old the COVID vaccine.
Well, our son got born in 2022, so he kind of missed a lot of that. But our daughter. But anyways, we have a lot of friends that had kids that were pulled out of school or sat at home and had to learn on screens and all. I mean, you want kids off the screens already.
No, even before COVID, I was speaking frequently as a vaccine skeptic and have paid the price.
But that was a left thing.
This is one
for a
of those
while.
issues where the far left said, enough of Bill Maher.
But don't you think the left at one point were the ones that were the most skeptical of vaccines?
Some of them, yes. There was always those, the hippies, yes.
But that wasn't a right issue.
It became that. It became completely political, whereas, yes, it is a little bifurcated because there is a division of the left, hippie types, who are anti-vax. But the majority of the left viewpoint is always super safety. Like, we're the good people because we believe in the maximum amount of safety and what you have to do for safety. And yes, if we put this in the car, this law that says a bing goes off if you leave your child in the back seat, which will cost everybody, I don't know, $2,000 more for every car they buy. We're good people, as if that's a thing. You know, yes, people do leave kids in the backseat sometimes, usually because they intend to, which is how sick humanity is, or they're crackheads, and a little bing is not going to change it. Anyway, that's always their thing, more safety. So more vaccines was better, always better. And it's just not scientific. And you probably hurt your kids because, look, nobody knows the answer to this. I was going to say, before even COVID, I was always questioning this by saying, look, I don't know what causes cancer. And I'm not saying it's vaccines, and I don't think it is. But what we don't know is that it is some confluence of things we're doing to ourselves that we weren't doing 100 years ago.
Sure.
When cancer rates were much lower. So is vaccine something that is in that mix if we actually could study this? Along with electromagnetic energy and lots of other things, that mercury and chemicals that weren't around before and plastics, a million things.
We just did an episode.
God forbid you ask that question, though.
It's a legitimate question for which I don't have the answer, and neither do you.
We just did an episode.
And neither do you. So if I'm going to have to make the choice between a vaccine or not, I'm going to go, in general, I would rather trust my immune system as I have learned to treat it and nourish it, as opposed to a vaccine. But again, if it's the Spanish flu,
then it's different. Well, we were even saying, was it on our show where we were just talking about how you do some form of intermittent fasting at times where you don't eat? Like, that was another thing. I mean, my biggest problem was I trusted my immune system and my metabolic health at the time, and I hated the idea that we were categorizing every single person of every single age group as the same.
You totally don't need that vaccine. I can tell by looking at you.
Of course.
And you don't need it either.
Of course.
I can tell that with the naked eye. You don't need that vaccine. And I'm sure there are people, oh, Bill, look at that, a comedian diagnosing 2 people. He's not a doctor, and he's saying you can do it just with the naked eye. Yeah, you know what? There's a small chance that couldn't be right, but everything is a small chance it couldn't be right. But actually, I'm right. I can just look at you. I know your age. I know I can see you're healthy. I've had many doctors say to me, usually I can tell when somebody walks into my office if they're healthy or not. You literally wear it on your face.
Yep.
Now, there are things, obviously, that are more complicated than that, but you don't need the vaccine. Other people did, and I'm glad they had it. It saved millions of lives. I say that every time this comes up because I want the people to understand. I'm not unreasonable about this. I get it. But the lives it saved were mostly people who had done to themselves ill health to begin with. Not all to themselves. Yes, there's lots of people of compromised situations, not their fault. We shouldn't even ask if it's their fault. Doesn't matter. They should get life-saving treatment no matter what. We all do shit to ourselves that hurts ourselves. We don't want to start down that road of, oh, you're a smoker, so you don't get to. No, we all are doing something, even if it's like stress or martinis or whatever, drugs. But, if you're healthy and you don't need something, that's it. That's all people like us are asking. And again, the irony is it's the most reasonable position, not the most unreasonable.
So you as somebody who has traditionally, I think, you're more moderate, but leaned a little more left, during that period of time, what was it like when you started catching flack for speaking out like this?
Same as with all these issues that the left has gone nuts about. It's the subject, basically, of the book I put out this year. It's probably the subject of the special I'm going to do at the end of the year. I haven't changed. I'm basically what I've always been, left of center, but not afraid to call out the bullshit that happens anywhere, including on the left. They just didn't used to be as crazy. I noticed it. They do this all the time. They do nutty shit, and then I notice it and they blame me. Okay, it's not my fault. And I'm not going to hold my tongue when you do nutty shit. And the response to COVID was nutty, to my view. And it was driven, look, part of it happened under Trump, but most of it was driven by the hypersensitivity, hyper-safetyism of the left. And again, always about the identity politics. In this case, obese people. We could not mention that. This is, again, a scientific situation. Let the science rule. Isn't that what the liberals are always saying? Follow the science. Okay, the science told us who was vulnerable. It would be like saying, well, AIDS, we don't know who it attacks. Well, we do. Gay men and intravenous drug users in America, that's not saying I'm against those groups. I'm all for helping those groups or any groups that need our help medically. But that's just the scientific fact. And if there's a certain specific segment of the population that's most vulnerable, we should protect them more and also inform them more and let the rest of us live our lives.
If
I wasn't fat during COVID, and I wasn't taking it up the ass during AIDS. And that's my position.
It's so funny. You're pretty funny.
Pretty? Jesus.
I can report he's very funny, and he's wearing a very stylish outfit, the boots, the belt, the jeans. If Trump walked in here right now.
You're like my obvious demographic. You know me, like me, watch me. You don't know the fuck about me.
Yeah,
But now you're going to get her.
I'm into it.
To more into it. Good. That's why we're doing this. I love that.
I know what's so funny.
I love new people.
She'll bring people on the show.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I saw a little bit.
I'll teach people some techniques.
She brings a lot of people on our show, and I am in the boat. I'm like, what's going on here? And I can't watch what they do until after I meet them. And then so I feel like now she's gonna.
No, I obviously know who Bill is.
No,
I've seen him.
Know who Bill is.
I do.
After 31 years, she knows who I am. Yeah, hi, nice to meet you. Hey everyone, I'm on Substack now. Check it out and subscribe now at billmaher.substack.com. What could be simpler than that? My name, then .substack.com.